normal seems to be a concentration of the idea that technocrats of whatever colour, whether it's the people who weren't elected, that many of the members didn't actually want, who are currently in the government, or the opposition who wanted even more impositions, longer and harder. The new normal seems to be, when in doubt, regulate, restrict, nudge, fear, tell the public, be quiet, we know what's best for you, and we're going to do it regardless, undemocratically. Whether that happens to be Sadiq Khan with ULEZ, whether it happens to be 15 and 20-minute cities or low traffic neighbourhoods, funded by a central government, implemented by local authorities. And frankly, this charade with what's going on with Boris Johnson at the moment, when we should have been looking at why we should never have done it in the first place, like Anders Tegnell has done in Sweden. Yeah. Many people have been disrupted, over 7 million waiting on the NHS, cost of lockdown crisis, impacts across families and education. We see all the destruction and the damages, and I think that the public are fed up with being sidelined and treated with contempt, and actually now people are organised. So at the Together Association, the Together Declaration, we're launching a new cabinet that will put the government under pressure and the opposition and say, let's put the public at the heart of things, not technocrats.
You formed the Together Association as a result of lockdown. Just tell us what it is, the association, and the sort of organisations that are supporting you, Alan, because it's a pretty big alliance.
Yes, indeed. So we launched on so-called Freedom Day, that Orwellian term when Boris Johnson said, oh, by the way, it's Freedom Day and we're going to have vaccine passports. We work with all sorts of people like Us for Them that campaign for children not to have to wear masks in schools. We work with people like the Free Speech Union. Our pillars around fundamental freedoms, the freedom of speech, freedoms to the right to congregate and protest, pillars around no lockdowns ever again, no restrictions without a cost-benefit analysis. So no suspending parliamentary scrutiny and ensuring transparency and open debate, and particularly about putting the public at the heart of things. So not being told that the markets need this, or we must do that because it's this crisis or that emergency, but thinking calmly and rationally about what we need. Local, regional and national democratic accountability where the public is at the heart of things, so people can see that at togetherdeclaration.org.
Alan, people must be listening to this and thinking, oh, well, this guy must have been in politics for years. He must have been a local councillor, or he must have been having political ambitions of his own this time 3 years ago. How true is that?
Entirely untrue, frankly. I've been involved in the nighttime sector, bars, clubs, entertainment. Nothing would have been further from the truth. Actually, I would have been much happier to have carried on being able to do that. I think the thing is, it's a bit like that moment, here I stand, I can do no other. I mean, I do think that anyone who is serious about the kind of society we want to live in and freedoms and watch what's happened in the last 3 years, although many of the trends have been there for the last couple of decades, but the last 3 years, there is a different way. It doesn't have to be just this thing we're presented with. There's an opportunity for you to have your voices heard, to get involved and to hold elected representatives accountable. And if they can't do it, they should step out of the way. And we need to re-energize this idea that the public is at the heart of things and we have democracy properly and truly, because we're seeing so many measures that are really, really anti-public, that are anti-freedom. And we should remember that this experiment of the last 300 years that we have is not the same everywhere. Lockdowns, China, you look at many places around the world, they don't have the kind of respect for our fundamental rights and freedoms. And that's why anyone who thinks it's important that we uphold this legacy and defend that so many people fought and died for, freedom of speech, freedom of protest, should get involved with us and make sure that as the new emergency or crisis we keep being told about comes down the line each time, we're told we have to do this, be quiet, sit in the corner, put your hands on the heads, that we say, well, why and how come? And despite the smears, when people like to smear and silence and censor, and we've seen it with the government organisations to spy on citizens, we've seen it with the Twitter files, in spite of all of that, but we say, no, actually, we're not going to have this. We demand and insist on a free approach that puts us at the heart of things, and we're not going to be treated with contempt anymore.
All right, thank you, Alan.